Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Lois and I am the Deep Tech Pioneers Coordinator here at Hello Tomorrow. And I'm really glad to be hosting you today for this first session of our Been There, Done That series. Some of you might have read already the description, but our aim is really just to introduce you to a few incredible founders in our Deep Tech Pioneers community and to offer you a chance to hear firsthand about their startup journey and also to get hopefully some insights and advice from their experiences. So I know that this might be the first time for some of you hearing about Hello Tomorrow. So I'd like to just do a quick introduction about us and our work. So Hello Tomorrow is a global organization dedicated to unlocking the power of deep tech. And our roots started about 10 years ago. And today, one of our main activities is organizing events. We've organized over 100 international events to date. And really, the goal behind this is to foster connections between key stakeholders in deep tech. So that includes entrepreneurs, like Samantha, of course, and also investors, industry leaders, research institutions, accelerators, and the like. So for startups, we do have a few opportunities available. We run an annual competition, a deep tech startup competition, the Global Challenge, which actually just closed recently. And it's outside of that, we've built a startup community called our Deep Tech Pioneers, where we offer a host of benefits to support the growth of startups, offering them valuable content as well as business and fundraising opportunities all year round. For investors, we also do offer investment opportunities for them, and we organize one-to-one meetings between them and startups from our Deep Tech Pioneers. And lastly, we also work with corporations. So we offer them tailored services on open innovation, so across all industries and technologies. So that's just a little bit about what we do. If you're curious to know more, feel free to go to our website, of course. But now, without further delay, I'm really happy to introduce our guest speaker, which is Samantha Snabes, of course, who is the co-founder of Re3D. So a bit about Re3D. It's a social enterprise developing innovations to reduce the cost and so scale barriers to 3D printing. But I'll let Samantha talk more in detail herself. And for us at Hello Tomorrow, I mean, really the first time we encountered Re3D was back in 2016. So they had applied for a global challenge and went on to win in the Industry 4.0 category. So yes, hi, Samantha. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Good. Thank you so much for having me. Good evening to everyone in Europe.
Yeah, so I'm really happy to have this conversation with you today and to put a spotlight on your important work. So as I mentioned to everyone, Samantha will give a short introduction and then I'll have a portion as well where I'll ask her questions. But you also have the opportunity to ask your questions. So already don't hesitate to interact on the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. And if you have questions as we go along, you can go ahead on the questions tab and ask them directly, and I'll bring that up to Samantha later on. So yeah, let me just leave you the mic now, Samantha.
Excellent. Well, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Apologies for the many tabs you might see. We're always working on grants. So for a little bit of context, we are oops, I stopped sharing. We are oh man, no, I'm screwing this all up. One more time. Good thing we practiced beforehand. We are a bootstrapped open source social enterprise, which makes us a little bit unique, especially when we go to pitch competitions like Hello Tomorrow. But we are just so honored to have had the opportunity to get to engage with the Hello Tomorrow community. And we're so excited when we heard about the event, because we are a hardware company. And way back in 2013, when we founded, that was not as common to be pursuing, hardware, particularly if you manufacture it yourself, and with a lean to impact humanity. So the demographic of Hello Tomorrow, if y'all have had a chance to participate with the events, includes academia, which is really important, as we all know, and developing new technology, as well as entrepreneurs and corporations as we think about scaling. So we really resonated with that opportunity. So we applied to pitch. In short, what we do is we make large scale, affordable industrial 3D printers. And we say that we are 3D printing with purpose. So way back when we were working at NASA, my co-founder and I, and volunteering with Engineers Without Borders, NASA Johnson Space Center, we recognized that there was a gap in the 3D printing market market. There were desktop printers, which were great, but they were making bobbleheads and iPhone cases, things you could hold in your hand. And on the industrial side of the spectrum, with the services and the materials that are required, industrial printers could be $100,000 or more. And so we felt like this market opportunity, which has now been, some estimate can be up to $37 billion, was a great opportunity to introduce a technology for our friends in Muganero and Rwanda and Nicaragua and beyond, who were looking to make large functional objects, but needed to do that in an affordable way. So we came up with the idea to make an open source 3D printer that would be the size of a toilet, or about 600 millimeters cubed, and started just under $10,000. We came up with those requirements based on surveys we did with the International Red Cross and USAID. That time I was a social entrepreneur in residence for NASA headquarters. And we really weren't intending to quit our jobs. We wanted to get this technology into the market. So seen here is not the first version that you may have seen on Kickstarter, but this was what we call our flagship technology. It's Gigabot, and it started out at about 30 times the size of those desktop printers, but a fraction of the cost of the industrial equivalent. Now, we do sell Gigabot now globally. It's in over 50 countries, including France and in Paris, as well as in the United States, where I am today. And we also offer a whole host of services around the technology. Many people, when they're looking to print at scale, need some assistance choosing the material, designing their design, creating their object, or maintaining and providing training to their team. Now, again, what makes us unique is we had this idea when we were at NASA to have this open source, basically spin-off of Engineers Without Borders. And after sharing the idea online and entering a couple of contests to fund the prototype, we got into a program called Startup Chile. They gave us $40,000 equity free to start or scale our idea. Now, while we were at Startup Chile, we got lucky that there was a booth at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, just down the road from us, that they had. And they said if we could make a prototype by the time of the tech event, we could launch it on Kickstarter Live, which we did. And we were funded in one day, raising over $250,000 US. Fast forward now, we've continued to sell these printers as well as the services around them. And we only go bigger, accomplishing over $10 million in revenue and $350 on crowdfunding. We've also been fortunate to participate in a number of pitch events as well as grants. This has supported our R&D to take Gigabot to new heights. And despite being hit by 3 hurricanes in Houston and Puerto Rico, where we have an outpost, we've continued to grow. And you'll see on there, Hello Tomorrow has been part of this genesis. You have funded and voted for us to find a way to stay independent. We knew that we could do it because we were a team of doers and creatives from NASA. We had 2 awesome advisors, Pascal Finette and Tom Chi, from Silicon Valley that you might recognize. And we had the knowledge and the know-how and the network to make this a reality. Since the beginning, we've stuck to our social mission. We give away 1 printer for every 100 we deliver to someone trying to make a difference in their community. And then when we went to Hello Tomorrow, what we wanted to share was not just the world's largest affordable toilet-sized 3D printer that was open source, but our vision to modify it to print directly from plastic waste. That's right, garbage. Seen here are 3 images taken from outside our offices in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And what you see here is the same globally. We all know there's a plastic problem. Those of you in Europe seem to appreciate it more than the US right now, where less than 10% of plastic is reclaimed. We wanted to give that trash a home. And so we shared this during the Industry 4.0 event and said, with the money that we could win during Industry 4.0, or the global award, we would make it a reality, believing that it would unlock new opportunities, shorten supply chains, and create a whole new ecosystem of jobs. So seen here is what the very first prototype that we did make with the Industry 4.0 funding that allowed us to take originally shredded up 3D prints to make some furniture pieces in a partnership with Habitat for Humanity. And then we went on to win the Global Creator Award competition and a few other pitch prizes, as well as received a large grant from the National Science Foundation that allowed us to then start making skateboards and other objects our interns like, to put real rigor around the technology and to scale onto both manufacturing as well as consumer waste. So seen here today is Gigabot, Gigabot X, very similar to our flagship technology that prints with filament, and it allows you to print with pellets or flakes. We've specifically designed it with a target on water bottles, shredded up water bottles, as well as a granulator and a dryer around that, as part of our National Science Foundation research and our work in Puerto Rico. So in short, we take garbage, it can be ground up, it goes into flakes or pellets that then is introduced into the printer to make products that hopefully could also be not only functional, but recycled again, some say up to 5 to 7 times, depending on the material. And what's been really interesting about Gigabot as well as Gigabot X is despite Gigabot X still being beta, it has already been delivered across 3 continents, and people are requesting bigger and bigger versions of it now, up to the size of a shipping container. It allows you to do advanced materials research. And when we think about garbage, there's just a lot of it. So people want a bigger form factor. They have big plans. We believe this is supporting Sustainable Development Goals 9 and 12. And around all 3 locations in Austin, Houston, and San Juan, Puerto Rico, we're honored to have partnerships with organizations such as the Habitat for Humanity Restore here in Austin, where we're looking at how much people would pay and what they would make from waste that could create new jobs and support local economies. We also have a number of partners here you might recognize. All that to say that some of people we really admire, including yourselves, have been supporting this, and there's been a lot of fingerprints on the design of this hardware. Finally, I'll close and say we did receive a $100,000 grant from Barclays to make PPE. While the need may not be as big in your community right now, we are still producing that for communities that are impacted by COVID. If you know of underserved populations or organizations that need PPE, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to provide that for free. So thank you for your time. Thank you to Hello Tomorrow and all the amazing organizations, including yourselves, that helped bring printing from garbage to light.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for that great presentation. I mean, what can I say? It's just really inspiring, and to see how far you've come since you last participated. It's beautiful to see the improvements. Yeah, of course, I've prepared some questions on my side to delve deeper into your experiences. And one achievement that I was particularly interested in is your choice to build your startup without any outside equity investment. So I'm just wondering, what made you choose to go that route? And maybe if you could share some key steps that were instrumental in helping you do that successfully.
Sure. Some might say that we chose to do that route. Honestly, I think that route found us. This is my second venture. The first time I was seeking investment, it was in life sciences, and for some solutions and deep tech, raising isn't necessary. However, as you may have picked up on our story, we weren't intending to start a company this go around. We really liked our jobs at NASA, but when we raised the $250,000 US on Kickstarter, in one day we were in 20 countries. We realized this was a thing. We then our 2 advisors, Tom Chi and Pascal Finat, encouraged us just to continue taking people's money if they were willing to fund it in terms of pre-orders. So we ran this, some would say, a Ponzi scheme for about 2 years. We were able to use pre-orders to fulfill our existing orders as we stood up racking and stood up a factory. What we did find, though, is, by the time 2015 came around, and we did talk to a couple of investors, what we found is that, 3D printing was starting to lose maybe some of its appeal. And printing from garbage, even to this day, I would be lying if I said I knew what the market would be, or if we were going to be millionaires. That's probably not going to happen. But I think we all agree it's inherently right, and there's an opportunity to understand it. So I started to hear about pitch competitions, which were becoming more popular, and that's why I was so excited about Hello Tomorrow. And then from that and from the community, actually, peers we have in Hello Tomorrow, we learned about other grants. So we started to pursue non-dilutive means. So I would say, there are a lot of people, sometimes early on you can get pushed to really know your product market fit. And, there's probably YouTube videos of me being on stage where investors have a lot to say about the fact that I can very honestly say our market is very broad. But if you have a broad-based technology, you believe it's right, and you're mission-driven, and if you happen to resonate with sustainability or social impact, there are a lot of resources out there right now for you to grow with the community and to receive feedback. We have found by being bootstrapped and open source that people are quick to give us lots of feedback, and it's been a way for us to help use that to evolve our technology, because everyone knows we still have a long way to go. So for us, it was it kind of happened the way it did, but it really it's kept us lean too, which has been really great.
Great. Yeah, thank you. That's very interesting. So, I mean, you touched on it already a little bit, but yeah, in the early stages, I guess, how did you choose the priority market that you would jump in on, and I guess the business model to address that market?
Yeah, so this is where I'm a big fan in hardware of crowdfunding if you can, because we are open source, we weren't concerned about IP. And honestly, we knew the market was going to be global, and I have 3 patents my first venture, like I knew we would never have the resources to litigate them. So we just kept it open source from the beginning. And what we found is, oh gosh, I just forgot the question. I need to open.
Yeah, sorry, I was just asking about how you decided on the priority market and also your business model.
So what we decided is in relating to the first question too, I knew I couldn't take an investor's dollar and give them 10x return. That wasn't going to happen, and we weren't that appealing. But with this opportunity, pretty much any 3D printer was doing well on Kickstarter around 2012, 2013. So we thought, well, let's just put it on there because we designed it for our friends in Muganero, Rwanda, and our friends in Nicaragua and in rural Mexico. So when we put it on Kickstarter, what was interesting is the people that bought it were not our friends that we knew from Engineers Without Borders. They were hospitals, even in Houston, Texas. They were big brands, and they were problem solvers we learned in 20 plus countries. So for us, what we found is we're pretty bullish on encouraging anyone in hardware to use crowdfunding or any way to get outside of like your mom or your neighbor or your grandma or your significant other's feedback. Get out of that echo chamber, throw it up online. And if you are a broad-based technology, see who's willing to buy it at the stage it's in. And then we made the commitment that we would serve those customers first. So our customers really dictate how our technology evolves. Going into printing from waste, I think we also thought, NGOs and disaster relief organizations might be really interested. But we've also learned that there's a lot of corporations in austere environments or remote locations, such as mining and oil and gas. And then during COVID, what we found is, as borders have closed, as we've had shipping issues, say with the Suez Canal, lots of different types of organizations are trying to think about sourcing more locally. And so that has opened up new markets for us with bigger brands we hadn't anticipated as we think about flexible and deployable manufacturing on site.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of reactivity involved, what the needs are. So, yeah, because I mean, you've pretty much scaled up now. You have these, I see almost 6 different printers, all through this bootstrapping technology. I mean, you've said a bit, but can you say more about how you managed to do that?
Yeah, so
how that experience went.
How our portfolio evolves again is really based on our customers at that time. Again, so 2 things: we weigh every decision we make, even with R&D or a pitch competition or a grant, against what we call our commercial glide path. Is it going to keep us on our commercial path, which we've decided is cost and scale? That's why we don't go smaller. Mm-hmm. And does it meet our social mission? And if we check those 2 boxes, we help all different types of problem solvers globally. And what we're finding is we get asked to make bigger and bigger printers. Occasionally we get asked to make a smaller one, and we tell them that's not our mission and point them to other people that have helped address that accessibility gap and make recommendations. So every one of our printers that comes out is either a result of funding from a contract or a grant, or a customer that says, I will pay you to make that bigger version or that custom solution. And I'll even pay for you to make 2 so that you can sell it sometimes afterwards as a commercial offering. So all of those printers are a result of one customer that said, I really like this, but could you make it a little bit bigger? And that's where ContainerBot has come from. We haven't produced one yet, but we have several organizations that are asking us to go as large as that form factor. I think that also speaks to when you are lean and you are bootstrapped, the fact that we could do in-house manufacturing and our team can cross over into multiple roles has really been of benefit to us.
Yeah. I mean, and that's super interesting. So you talked about impact briefly within there, and I mean throughout your whole presentation. And obviously, as a founder, of a startup, there's a lot of conflicting goals sometimes, and some of those conflicting goals can be, impact versus revenues. Just wondering how you balance those 2.
Yeah, it's not easy. We still work crazy hours, and I would be lying if I said we were on competitive salaries. But we do We now pay for 100% of healthcare for our team, which is a big deal in the United States, and work with great people we consider our friends together. And so what keeps us motivated is really that social mission. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And if we hope there's lots of people doing what we're doing in the ecosystem. If you want to print from garbage, please reach out to us. And if that means that someday we're not needed, that's fine. But we can't imagine doing, my co-founder and I and our team can't imagine doing anything else. We get to laugh and cry in the same day. And we meet the most interesting people around the world who are customers. And it's our customers that are really like changing culture and their industries and their communities. And in those instances, we see them create jobs or economic independence. That's really exciting for us.
Yeah, that's really incredible to hear. And I mean, definitely encouraging for all the other startups that you can do both at the same time. And you even volunteering during the COVID times and, responding to that is really beautiful. So I'll probably take this opportunity now to check in on the questions tab. I see just a couple there. So one question is, so from Sarab, how many times can you recycle the material you create from garbage? Does the quality of the material, is it impacted with multiple recyclings?
Yeah, Rob, you're asking all the right questions. Absolutely, it is. It really depends on the polymer and the side chains. And what we've learned even with water bottles is different brands of water bottles have different thicknesses, which influences their printability. And there are different types of PET as well, and they've had different additives. So that also then influences the amount of times that they can be recycled. The interesting thing about our approach right now with Gigabot X being a pellet and a flake printer is potentially you could mix in something that could help reconstitute a polymer to help with the number of uptimes. But we've seen anywhere in studies with different polymers we've looked at thermoplastics, anything from like 3 up to 20 times. I think that's ambitious. I think it's usually between 7 and 10 is where they say it's capped. But there's definitely a need for more rigor in that, and there's an endless amount of variables. So if you have a passion for that, we would love to chat.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, I mean, because I guess you do have a larger team now, but you're still looking to look for some other expertise in different fields. So another question we have, what about production capabilities? Did you build your own factories or did you partner with existing players?
Yeah, so we actually did. We don't own it. We lease our own factory. We're hoping to maybe build out with the city next year. But you can take a virtual tour. You modeled it off of a brewery, cut big holes in the walls, and we have a little showroom in the front. But we'd love to take you through that. We give virtual tours every month. You can sign up on our website under the Impact tab at re3d.org. But yeah, we did it ourselves. We don't have any debt. We're really proud of that for our equipment. But it was very basically we don't take dividends. Everything we make in the company through our services and our printer sales goes back into it so that we can grow our mission and our reach.
Very cool. So yeah, just to clarify, those production factories, areas, is it based in the Puerto Rico side or is it in the Texas?
Oh yeah. So we're still across the street from Johnson Space Center. A little bit of a cautionary tale. We're in the building that was our former employer when we were contractors. So a lot can change in a short amount of time. But if anyone's also in the area and near the Space Center, we'd love for you to visit. And then we have just an office in Austin, Texas, as well as an office in Parallel 18 that was the accelerator that sponsored us, and the Puerto Rican Science and Research Trust in Puerto Rico.
Actually, so is there any opportunity for you to work with NASA at some point, or have you discussed with them at all?
Oh man, this is a freebie. Yeah. So some of our early customers outside of Kickstarter was the aerospace community because they knew us. Multiple NASA campuses do have different versions of our printers. And then we haven't pushed the blog, but stay tuned next week. We received a federal grant, a phase 1 award to look at thermosets and foams for like heat shield printing, which is really cool for us. And just a couple weeks ago, I did the compliance paperwork and I got a NASA ID back. So it was weird in 8 years to go from leaving the system to Matthew and I being back in it. And we just had our kickoff meeting with our NASA customers yesterday. So really excited to get into thermosets too. We think that will really help with accessibility. If anyone's interested in that, we'd love to chat. And that will be with University of Tennessee, Knoxville, as well as Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So stay tuned. We're gonna push a blog next week announcing it. We're so honored to receive that and to hopefully grow with NASA in a research capacity as well as an existing customer.
Wow, congrats. Yeah, that's definitely good news. And we're happy to be one of the early ones to hear about it.
You're the first to hear.
Yeah, oh, perfect. So I have another question from Nina. So let me just read through the first part. Okay, so when you had your first prototype, how did you find your first customer to iterate on the product? That's the first part of the question.
Yeah, so Nina, I just had this crazy idea to make a toilet-sized 3D printer under $10,000. Again, we kind of thought it would be just this open source project we'd release like through Instructables. When we received the 40K from Startup Chile, and I had to quit my job and moved to Chile, and that's why you see re3d.org in our URL. And then I heard about this booth at South by, so that became like a forcing function in 8 weeks to make the prototype. And we based it on requirements from the interviews I had done, thinking more about NGOs and disaster response in my role as a social entrepreneur in residence for NASA, as well as in Engineers Without Borders. And I'd also done a little bit of work with Opportunity International and microfinance. So I based it off of those requirements. We then put it on Kickstarter, and TechCrunch pushed a blog that said 3D printing is now bigger than a bread box. Again, we did that live from South by Southwest. So the press walked in, TechCrunch pushed a blog, we were funded in a day. And then again, everyone that bought it wasn't who we thought it would be. I think it's really, really important if you're going to make something to try not to hold on to it too long. Like if you look at our Kickstarter campaign, Gigabot looked kind of ugly, like the electrical box was on the ground. It was pretty rough. I didn't put a lot of thought clearly into the build out of the campaign, but that was okay. Like people knew where we were and they were excited about the technology. So if you can do something like that, and I would say too, if you do crowdfunding, if you can launch at a live event or a virtual event during COVID, it really helps because the organizers buy into you. For example, the reason we're printing from garbage is because of the funds that we received from Hello Tomorrow and the feedback we got from Imogen Heap and, meeting the big brands at that event. And now Hello Tomorrow has equity and is part of our success. So anything you can do to really mobilize a community to advocate for you and to tell you things that you may have missed is really helpful.
Yeah, that's super useful and practical advice. So Nina had a follow-up question, or a second part of their question actually. So how would you convince a customer to work together in such early stages?
Yeah, it's tough. The privilege of Kickstarter is I think there's an expectation you're going to deliver. Don't tell Kickstarter this, but that you'll deliver late, and it's probably going to be the beta. So we've tried in our 3 campaigns to make that very clear. And even with Gigabot X now, we tell the customers, we vet them, and we say, we have a webinar once a month. We invite you to get on and tell us what you're doing with this platform and where it could be better. We tell them every unit we ship will be a slight improvement onto the other one until we get to the final commercial version, likely this year. And it has a long lead time. That one is like 8 to 12 weeks. So we're getting close to where the people get the commercial version now that buy. And then we push a forum post to them, and we send an email to all of them saying, here's all the updates that have happened in the last month. We welcome your feedback. Sometimes they, want to talk to each other. Sometimes they just want to talk offline if they're like a big brand or a university. But we're very aggressive. And some of my friends and even our teammates, our later hires, have made fun of me. They're like, I buy a Nike shoe or an Apple computer, and Tim Cook's not like, I want to know where you live and what you're doing with my hardware. But we take that very seriously, and we try to visit our customers as much as possible when we're on the road. So when we were at Hello Tomorrow, we were also visiting customers in Paris. And just seeing how they're using the machine and trying to learn from them.
Great, thanks. So yeah, we have one more question from Kate. How did you manage to reduce the costs to reach the 10,000?
Yeah, so you'll see Matthew, my co-founder, who's really the brains behind that. He likes to say he kept it as simple as possible. You'll notice it's very open. That's by design. We wanted to feel more inviting than some of the boxier systems, but then also reduced costs. By doing in-house manufacturing, quite frankly, in the first couple of years of the company, I think you had to work for 6 months for free before you could get hired, and then you were not getting paid very much. So by discounting our time, that helped. We're very strategic in how we do batch manufacturing to lower cost. And I have an MBA in supply chain management. My family still works in factories in Detroit, and Matthew has a manufacturing background. So we had a lot of resources to understand like sourcing and how we could find efficiencies in our operations.
Okay, great. Thanks. So, I mean, I have a question on my side, but if anyone else wants to put in some questions, feel free to do so before we get towards the end. But for me, I was just wondering what your, the upcoming plans are besides and ambitions besides the one from NASA, if you can share any of that with us.
Yeah, so another, again, what we found, and I would encourage the other deep tech startups to maybe consider this strategy as well, is, we didn't get into like pitching and grants until like 3 to 5 years in, where we really got into the swing of it. But we think there's a healthy relationship between selling your product, which we do in our services, is like 50% of your revenue, and then doing grants and contracts for the other half. And that supports the evolution of your technology as well as strategic pilots. So rather than us in the beginning, we thought we had to do it all and like pilot the technology and write it up and share it. We now work with organizations who basically co-brand or channel partner or even pay for our pilot efforts. So one opportunity we have right now is with the United States Air Force Academy. And we're in a phase 1. We're really hoping to get the phase 2. I might cry if we don't get that one. But in Colorado Springs, where we're looking at identifying all the waste that the base, it's a school basically, but it's also a base because it's an academy, they produce, and then working with the civil engineering department and the Department of Aeronautics with the students as part of project-based learning. So in training, which we already do, to process that waste and then to turn it into functional objects to then test. And they're really interested too in like some humanitarian engineering applications. So that is going to be a really amazing case study. In parallel, we're also working with the Puerto Rican Science and Research Trust to source a container that we'll use to ship our printers and the tools to print from waste, and to put it next to all the water bottles still left over from Hurricanes Irma, Maria, to see, and we'll be able to hire 2 people for 6 months on that to see, hopefully they'll start a company, what they would make from all these thousands of water bottles in the farmland. But that was through their financial support. So you'll probably be hearing a lot about water bottles, a lot about campus or base waste, because what we're finding now is like we had this concept, but just like we did in 2013, now we just need to get it out into communities, look at different waste streams, see what people would do with it, and figure out, if it has merit or not.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. So we have one question. It's a bit more technical as well. Regarding the maintenance of gigabots, how long do you stay connected with your customers to troubleshoot their individual problems, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, so hopefully it doesn't scare anyone off. Forever. We say your machine never expires. So every improvement we come up with, that's also why it's open and modular, is available to you as a kit for a path to upgrade. We try to send a survey once a year to all our customers to check in, sometimes twice, and a little gift for their time. When we're in your neighborhood, you get a phone call and we ask if we can visit you. But initially the machine does come with a 6-month warranty. Some people have extended warranties, but in terms of like online customer support, that's for the life of the machine. And there are definitely people that say, stop bugging me, but for as long as we exist, which we hope will be forever, and you exist, and your machine, we will find every means to connect with you.
Very cool. So one more question, which is interesting from our team. What is the main selling point for your customers? Is it the impact or is it the price?
Yeah, I think, it's been interesting going back to the question on relationships. Like I'm learning like some of the connections, we may have built around Hello Tomorrow, or just now at the point where we're able to leverage them or they mature. Sometimes it takes a couple years. But for us, we found that, crap, I just forgot what you asked. I got distracted by the question.
No problem. So the main selling point for your customers, impact versus price.
It's cost and scale.
Okay.
It really is not sustainability. Although we are finding now some of our customers have said, when they had a choice as other people entered this space, this market, either on the pellet side or the filament side, that they really believe in our social mission. and what we're doing. And so sometimes that'll tip it over, but really it's because it is a quality solution that can help them address their problem. That's number one.
Great. So we have one more. It's quite active. Any advice on how to find the best partner to start the startup with, and how did you end up partnering with your current co-founder, Matthew?
Yeah, so Matthew and I met while we were volunteering, and I had diarrhea in Rwanda for 3 weeks. So we spent a lot of time together. And then we also worked together professionally in the same director at NASA. So, we had years behind us. What's really cool now, and it was just getting started at the time, is now there's just so many accelerators, even for ideation. I always I'd like to encourage people to apply, even if you don't get in or decide not to do it. Just the act of writing down your idea is really helpful. And then you're sharing it, and the people reviewing your application are going to see it, and their partners. And then if you get into the program, you're meeting peers. Not everyone's startup may decide they want to be around forever. So sometimes we've gained teammates that we met in a program that may be working for a different company. But it's also you have that energy around people all building something at the same time. And then you get access to their network. So I would say, take advantage of the accelerator opportunities. We're big fans of the ones that give you free money. But one of the programs we've done twice is Mass Challenge. And they have a program in Switzerland and Mexico and in the US. We've really enjoyed getting to know those networks. It has allowed us to grow even with brands like Autodesk, which is really exciting. And then, initially how we were funded is through Startup Chile. So we always recommend Startup Chile as well. Battle L18 in Puerto Rico is a copy of that. Both of them give you $40,000 to try and make something happen. And then you're in a cohort of lots of other entrepreneurs to network with.
Yeah, so even as an individual, it's definitely a great opportunity to take advantage of.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're getting closer to the end. One more question for me, a bit more general, but maybe and dreamy. But if you had to go back, if you had the chance to go back in time and share some advice to yourself in the early days of your startup, what would it be?
Yeah, I think there's been times where I've kind of gotten in the way of myself. Like I was a little insecure, and maybe that's why we took a little bit longer to pitch or to put together a grant application. I don't know. I just didn't feel like I was good enough, I guess, because I didn't have a PhD. Some people right now in current conversations in tech will say that's a female thing. I don't know if that's true, but I would say just don't get in your own way. And it's okay to be told no. We apply for things and get rejected every day. But that's how you learn, and you can see how people perceive your product and your company and what trends are. So I would say just deadlines too are really good forcing functions when you have a lot going on. So sometimes just, having the hard stop to get something in, to definitely apply to Hello Tomorrow is a great way just to get your story together and to step out and to meet new friends and potential customers and partners. So and also remember, it's okay to be ugly. We were, and it worked out. So whatever stage you're at, just get out and share and be prepared for maybe things in your market not to be what you envision, but it'll be a really great journey.
Oh, it's great. Thanks so much, Samantha. I think that's a great note to end on. Definitely inspiring. So yeah, thanks a lot for your insights today. And thank you to all of you who joined us. If you're interested, there will be a replay after this session of this whole event. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of the future Been There, Done That episodes that we'll be doing with other founders, just go ahead and sign up to the core newsletter. You can go to our website and sign up for that. You'll get updates on all the events we'll be doing, including other ones that we'll be hosting with corporates, investors, and also we do share some really cool content, practical content directed to startups. So yeah, thank you again so much, Samantha. Any final words?
No, thanks so much. If any of you guys would like to speak at one of our workshops or attend a tour, feel free to go to re3d.org, reach out to us on LinkedIn if we can give advice. And we're looking forward to seeing where your deep tech adventures take you.
Awesome. Thank you, Samantha, and to everyone else. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you, Lois.